DHT blockers for your hair and hair loss. 4 things to consider before you go out and get DHT blockers for your particular situation. My name is William Gonitz. I'm the CEO and founder of Evolution Hair Loss Institute and Advanced Trichology Products. Additionally, I have been a practicing trichologist for 21 years and I'm a fellow with the World Trichology Society. Now, DHT blockers are one of those things that people always go to when you're worrying about your hair, and I understand that because male pattern loss needs a DHT blocker to get it under control, as well as female pattern loss. However, there's a lot more than just DHT blockers in the whole hair loss situation, but today we're talking about 4 things when you are dealing with DHT blockers of what you should be considering. Number 1, you should be considering a natural DHT blocker as your first line of defense. And the reason for that is it's going to have probably the best benefit for the least plausible downside. So you are changing your body's chemistry when you're doing something from a DHT blocker perspective, and you need to make sure that you're being as gentle as possible but promoting as much growth as possible. So if you have male pattern loss or DHT related loss, you should start with a natural DHT blocker. Now, in the natural DHT blocker, there are ingredients that you should be considering, and those ingredients are at the top of the list is going to be saw palmetto, and that saw palmetto should be at least 360 milligrams, and it should be at least 45% fatty sterols. That is going to be a great benefit because there's a lot of clinical data, and I actually have a couple videos specifically on the clinical data that say that saw palmetto alone is actually a very powerful DHT blocker. But there's also additional clinical data that say there is a trio of herbs that is going to be even more powerful. So that is a combination of saw palmetto, stinging nettle, and pygeum. Now these 3 together are very, very powerful at overall diminishing DHT impact on the hair follicle itself, not systemically reducing the overall volume of DHT, which is important because that then decreases the risk of side effects. So again, natural DHT blockers, a lot less plausible risk for side effects than pharmaceutical DHT blockers. So you also want to be looking for a DHT blocker with pumpkin seed oil or pumpkin seed extract. Pumpkin seed extract actually has a lot of clinical data to support the fact that it actually does very efficaciously decrease the amount of DHT impacting the hair follicles. Plus, you want to be looking at something with zinc, and in my opinion, you really should be looking at something with digestive support because saw palmetto is sometimes difficult to digest. So if you're getting something with probiotics, prebiotics, and specifically a natural antifungal, your digestive system is going to work more efficiently, and that is going to allow for this to process better. I recommend the DHT blocker with immune support by Advanced Trichology, 2 in the morning, 2 at night with food. That, in my opinion, is the best DHT blocker naturally to support anyone who's going through a male or female pattern hair loss situation. That is the first place to start. The second place to go, you can go into the pharmaceutical realm. Now, finasteride is the most widely sold pharmaceutical worldwide for hair loss, and the reason for it is it's very effective at reducing DHT systemically. Now the problem with that is when you're decreasing DHT systemically, it can come along with side effects. In general, it's about 3% over placebo. Clinically, I think side effects are probably closer to above 5%, and those side effects are decreased libido, decreased ejaculate, inability to maintain an erection. You can also have brain fog and some other associated items that go along with it. But some people say that there is a syndrome created by finasteride, which is a long-haul finasteride syndrome. Even when you come off of that, you could end up with side effects in the pharmaceutical realm. So it's hard for me to say that that is going to be good for everybody. It does absolutely have a very powerful impact on the body, and it can be very, very powerful at assisting in blocking DHT to help regrow hair, but it does come along with side effects. So you must consider that. There's another generation of that, which is another level of a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, which is dutasteride. It actually never made it through clinical studies for hair growth or hair loss, but you have to consider what's going to potentially work for you. And realistically, if you couple finasteride plus the DHT blocker naturally, you will essentially eliminate the vast majority of the DHT burden completely, which is very, very good. Now, number 3 in this whole thing is that you must consider that there's other reasons for hair loss, including inflammation. So if you have itching, burning, dryness of the scalp, or if you have digestive disruptions, you're probably also dealing with inflammation. So additionally, there's something else that's going to be impacting the hair follicles, which is the amount of nutrients in your blood. So you need to make sure that your vitamin D is good, your zinc is good, and your ferritin is good, because if those are not good, it doesn't matter how much DHT blocking that you do, you are not going to get the best results possible. Also, you need to make sure that your vitamin D3 is at least least 60 nanograms per milliliter. Low vitamin D actually increases your DHT conversion. Vitamin D is a hormone. It actually helps support your liver in processing androgens specifically related to testosterone and dihydrotestosterone. So get that vitamin D up. I see so many young men particularly who have very, very low vitamin D because when you're not outside or you're wearing a lot of sunscreen, you're ending up blocking that vitamin D3. Additionally, when you're inside all the time and you're not getting vitamin D from the sun and you haven't supplemented with it, you are almost guaranteed to have low vitamin D3. So make sure that you've covered those bases. And the final thing, so you have number 4 on this list, topical DHT blockers. There's a host of topical DHT blockers. However, the topical is not nearly as impactful as the internal. So you can, in many situations, use, say, a natural DHT blocker, which is not as powerful as the pharmaceutical, but you can couple that with a topical DHT blocker, which has very, very low incidence of side effects. And you could use a topical DHT blocker that's going to be using saw palmetto, or you could theoretically be using things like red clover or even black cohosh. I recommend a DHT blocking product called the Nutri-M Topical Scalp Serum. That ends up coating the area and helping block DHT in a different way, and it complements the herbal DHT blocker. But at the end of the day, you can even use topical finasteride, topical dutasteride. These are all things that are going to help support the internal mechanisms. But again, they're not nearly as effective as doing something internally. So if you couple them together, you will most likely completely eliminate the DHT burden, and that is going to be a great situation for your hair when you're dealing with male and female pattern hair loss. So I hope that helps. I know that's a ton of information. If you like information like this, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Additionally, if you like this video, go ahead and like that as well. If you have stories about your own DHT blockers, or if you've got questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'm happy to help in any way.